Hi everybody, I hope you're having a great day out there. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I am ready to start my next project, and what I'm gonna do is some items that I bought at a quilt show, and what they are called are 3-yard quilts, okay? So I bought them from Fabriccafe, and I will put their website in the description below. But we'll see how it goes. Now they come in a roll like this, okay? And each one, this is a yard, and this is really pretty. This has got orcas on it. I think it's upside down. There you go. It's got orcas on it. And then it comes with 2 other fabrics, okay? So I've got enough, like I bought 2 with the orcas, and then I bought 2 with nature, lions, giraffes. So these 2 will give me enough to make a twin size quilt, okay? Then I bought 1 for just a 3-yard quilt. So I've picked out 2 patterns, the Byzantine Door pattern and the snowball quilt. And these patterns will give me enough so that it will showcase the orcas on here, okay? And hopefully enough to showcase the lions on this one. So we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna start going over the instructions. I always read the instructions totally first to make sure I'm not missing any steps. And I do not wash this fabric beforehand, okay? So I'm gonna put these off to the side. And she also has a book. She's got a couple books on her website that has patterns in it. And you can check out her website. She also has, which I really like, is my pattern collection. So when you buy a pattern, you can go ahead and check it off on the sheet. That way you're not buying duplicate patterns, when you go to her website. So you have that. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the instructions and maybe even start cutting out the pieces for this quilt. I'll be right back. Okay, so one of the things that I do is I label all of my pieces. It's going to make it much easier when I'm putting together the blocks and following the instructions to know, okay, these are 2.5 width, these are 1.5, these are 1 1/4, and what the pieces are for. Like this is for the binding. All right, so I suggest that you do that. And I made the mistake of cutting all the pieces, and then I had to go back through to label them all. So it's best if you just do it as you're going along. That way you know which is which. So right now we're going to go ahead and construct one of the blocks. Okay, so the first step is, this is our fabric number 1, and we need to sew our black strips to, let's get this apart, to the top and the bottom. Let's see if you can see that. There we go. The bottom of the fabric. So I'm going to take this over to the machine, and I'm going to go ahead and sew the black strips to the top and the bottom of the fabric. Okay, so what I did was I actually, one strip of this, you can actually chain stitch 4 panels on that strip, just like I did here. And then all you have to do is come through here, and you can use a ruler. Let's get a ruler out so we don't screw this up. We can go ahead and cut right in between these. And just leave a tiny little space in between, and you'll be able to go right through here and cut them apart. So this is what your block is going to look like, okay? And like I said, I chain stitched 4 of them in there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those up and then iron them back. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to alternate these blocks with these blocks so that they will come. You have this block here, and then you're going to have this block here, and then you'll have a block over here, and then one down here. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and take this to the other room because I have a big wall that I can go ahead and put these on. So we're going to go ahead and put these up, and I can stand up here, and these will stick right on here. I'm going to go ahead and do this in time lapse because it'll be much easier. Okay, so I have it all up on the board, and as you can see, I will still have to sew the black strips on the top, and then this is going to be a decent sized quilt. The black strips on the bottom. Now, if you notice the bottom right hand corner block, there was not enough material left, okay, the way I wanted to put this quilt together. So I had to go back and sew the leftover material together in order to get that extra block because I was missing one block. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the black strips on, and then we need to do the in-betweens and see how that goes. And we're going to sew all these blocks together. So I was so proud of myself that I got all the sashing in here. And now I'm going to end up spending time. I tried to sew the black strips on and then sew it with the sashing, but it's not lining up the way I need it to. So I'm going to end up taking out all the sashing, sewing in the black stripes, and then going from there because it's just not working the way I need it to. I've got one section done here, but then when I started sewing it, it's not lining up. As you can tell right here, if you look at it, see how it's not lining up? So I'm just gonna have to go through the whole quilt, take out all the sashing, and then put the black strips in and redo it. Just so everybody knows, I'm going to get really tired of ripping out stitches. This is going to take me for a while. So that's added on time to making this quilt top. So I'm going to continue to rip out stitches here, and we'll see how it goes. All right. So I have all of the sashings put back in, and I've got the black strips sewn in. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually ironing it from the back, and I'm cutting all of the strings that I can find, especially the strings that are on the light blue, so the black strings are not showing through, like this one right here, and I can't reach it. So I'm trying to get all these off of there and ironing it and just cutting off all the threads that are in the back. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually got my side borders on, and the last borders are going to be the top and the bottom. Now, here's the thing with these borders. We're going to have to measure 60 times to get it right, because we're going to be putting these blocks right in the corner, okay? And that's where we've got to make sure that we're measuring right to get the blocks in that corner, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to measure this a whole bunch of times. That way we're not having to fold it like this just to get that block in the seam. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll be back. All right, so I've finished the quilt top, and I will get to that in a second. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button if you like my content, so that YouTube will refer it, okay? All right, so I keep a quilt journal, okay? And in this, and I actually have it on here. Whoops. Let's see if I got enough hands to do this. Mom's quilt journal. What I keep in here is everything that I work on. And that includes if I'm making a bag or something like that. I write down the day I started and then the day I finished, like this quilt top. Now, I started this the 16th of June, but I didn't finish the top until the 22nd of August, okay? 2 weeks of that time was spent in the hospital. I have a special needs son, and he was in the hospital for 2 weeks. He's doing much better now, so we're really grateful for that. But what I do is I keep track of everything that I do on that quilt top, from ironing the fabric to cutting the fabric to making that first block, and I put my time in and my time out. Now, sometimes I would only spend maybe 20 minutes working on the quilt top. So my total for this quilt top was 15 hours. Now, I had to minus like 4 hours because I had to take it apart, but so 11 hours. And this was a 6-yard quilt versus a 3-yard quilt. So if you cut that 11 hours in half, that's probably about what it's going to take for you to make one of the 3-yard quilts. Now, when I bring it over to do long arming, I use one of these sheets. It's a weekly time sheet, and I put in, you know, which day of the week I work on it and for how long, the in and out, so that I can see how long it takes me to get that top quilted, okay? And this is really good, especially if you're running a business or you're trying to find out, like, how long does it take you to do something, to keep track of your time, okay? So this is something that I like to do to make sure I've got all the time in here that I spend working on a quilt top, or maybe an embroidery design, or, you know, making a bag. It just, you know, then when somebody asks you, well, how long did it take you to do that? Well, you've got that information right here, okay? All right, so we're going to take a look at the quilt top right now. Okay, so you can see the quilt top here. Now, what I had to do was I forgot to do the black sashings right here. So I had to come back through and take out all the blue in between the blocks and then redo the whole thing, because I had it all put together, but I'd forgotten the black in between. So that's what took me a while to do. I had to take this all apart and then re-sew everything back together. Now, the blocks actually turned out really nice. Oh, we're gonna stand on this stool. As you can see here, I've got the blocks on the edges, and they line up perfectly with this border right here, okay? So now the quilt top is done, and it actually turned out really nice, and it's pretty big. So this is instead of being a 3-yard quilt, it is a 6-yard quilt. So in the next video, we are going to load this quilt on my long arm and get it quilted up. Okay, so I will see you then.